Cristiano is something different because he's a meticulous, he's a winner, incredible need to use every day to be the best. I never seen that hunger ever.
The loss of Diogo Jota.
It was such a shock. Diogo Jota will be with us forever. Would have played in any winning teams of Manchester United through the history.
Yo, what's going on, people? It's your boy Adebayo Akinfenwa, and welcome back to the Beast Mode On podcast. All right, so today's episode for me is special because the person that's sitting across from me, I actually don't think he realizes how he impacted my life both on and off the pitch. He was my captain. We shared the changing room and we shared a pitch together. And the funny thing is, he went from sharing the pitch with me to now managing Cristiano Ronaldo in the World Cup. Not only that, he's managed the likes of Lukaku, Company, Hazard, De Bruyne, Vitinha, Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva. Hey, hold on. I'm just reeling off names. First and foremost, we're going to get deep into this. But first, I want everybody to give a massive Beast Mode On welcome to my captain, Mr. Roberto Martinez. All right, listen. All right, before we get started on the Beast Mode podcast, what we do is we like to give the people their flowers, just like appreciation. So I already know from our Swansea days, I know you're about your coffee.
Oh,
right?
wow.
So this is what we've done. I want you to open it up. This is a gift from me to you right here.
Bayo,
So
you're so kind. Can I just say thank you for the welcoming, and I'm so excited to be here because I've been following your career as well from afar, and every time you achieve something, we achieve it together. Come on.
You got, when you have your coffee.
Look, you know that they are Belgium, huh?
Yeah, because
I do
my team do their research. Come on.
It is true.
Yeah. So supposedly I'm not really a coffee man, but I hear
Beautiful.
that's like top tier coffee.
Wow.
Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's how I
Smells
know he's a
beautiful, huh?
connoisseur.
That's
He
beautiful.
smelt the coffee. And what
That's
I'm trying to
so
say
kind,
is
huh?
every time when it's a cold day, you got your personalized mug, your name on it, Beast Mode. It's love.
Bayo, I know. I always feel your love. Thank you so much. I really treasure this. Wow, you got the name and everything. That's
now.
perfect.
I love.
Thank you, Bayo, because
You're
that's
so
going to be
welcome.
with me in my office.
I signed at Swansea at 24, and we sat down and you said something to me. You said, you know what, B, I want you in my squad because of your energy around the place. And I think as I started getting older, I realized the essence of the word energy and how important energy is, not just in a change room, in life. It always stayed with me. But you said that, and we'll go deeper into that like throughout this pod. But thank you, and you'll see why I mean that. But yeah, man, that's a
Pleasure, Bayo. I think
yeah.
it's important in football is a team sport, and I always felt that we can speak about the technical aspect, the tactical aspect, of the talent that you have, and everything is about happiness when you play. Everything is wrong when you don't play from an individual point of view. And you had this contagious energy. You made that choice. Maybe you don't realize, but you made that choice in the morning when you get up. You said, yes, I'm going to help the group. And that's something that as a coach, as a manager, you appreciate a lot, because a happy environment gives a higher level. The successful teams are just an addition of all the individual talent, but you need to have the right mindset, you need the right energy, and you had that knack. And I don't know if it was a conscious decision from you every morning. There is never an easy day that you have to always bring that energy, but you had it. I don't know, throughout your career, I've been following you from the distance, and you had that choice to say, no, today is another day that I can make the difference, that I can influence people. And I think that's essential, that in a team sport, is your choice in the morning will decide how successful that group of people is.
See, you my captain. You just my captain. All right, cool. Now, thank you. Now let's talk about you. Let's go back to the beginning-ish. So let's go back to Wigan. So as a player, what was it like, your first memories of coming into English football, lower league, Wigan, early 90s? But what's your earliest memories about that time?
Firstly was the decision. Obviously, you remember that 95 is the Bosman situation where he wins the case and there are no barriers in European football. And we get the opportunity all I believe in destiny. I believe it happens for a reason. Dave Whelan, which buys Wigan Athletic, he always had from his time in the army that when he was playing with foreign players, they brought something different. In this case, more Spain, Italians. So he said to his manager that he was running the shops in Spain, I want to sign Spanish players. And at that point, it was only to sign one player. So cutting the long story short, it was the vision of Dave Whelan to bring Spanish players. At the end, it ended up being 3. For me, as a person, I always try to encourage people to obviously, as a natural instinct, we are fearful of change. We always, when somebody gives you an option to do something, your reaction say no. My reaction has always been curious. Is say, why not? Mm-hmm. And that time is, okay, we'll go to the British game. That's where everything started. What a fascinating opportunity. We don't speak a word of English, but we are three Spanish boys. We can. It's like going to the moon. We'll be together and we'll explore it together. And those are the feelings. I had my education in Zaragoza. Everything in the academy was you cannot lose the ball. If you give the ball away, you letting your team down. I arrived in the UK and they encourage you to lose the ball in the final third, because the quicker you get to the final third, there is a second ball, a set play, something will happen, chaos in the box, and you'll score a goal. So we went from having to have that ball, and that's the most precious action that you can have, to is a contrasting way of playing the game. And I enjoyed that side. I don't think it's for everybody. And in 95, it was difficult to... we're coming from a culture of Spain. Yeah. You would get up in the morning, you have lunch, you got siesta time, then you go out in the evening. And in Wigan at 4 o'clock, everything was closed. After training, we were ready to go out, and it was nothing in the shop. So you had to adapt a lot. But it was such an incredible warmth that we received from the fans. They received this in an incredible way, that it became very, very special for us to be part of that new project. So looking back with a lot of love and learning that everything that we learned in the past, well, it wasn't right. There are ways of playing the game, and I think you need to be able to adapt, be part of a team.
All right, so now we'll move to Swansea, where we met each other. Swansea was my first real education, like both on and off the pitch. So signed for Kenny Jackett. For me, Kenny Jackett was very much a manager who I think taught me how to win. His whole mindset was build a team to win. Mm-hmm. You know, what's your memory about Swansea? Because I keep talking about it was everything, you know, the characters. And I was saying this to you, where I didn't realise how young I was and how much y'all lot were the senior pros. Yourself, rest in peace, Kevin Austin, Andy Robinson, Lee Trundle. You lot I came into a changing room with characters that was just special. What's your memories about Swansea?
A little bit similar to you. I think you need to put in context. Swansea, I would say at that time, Swansea and Cardiff. Now we got Wrexham, Newport, but at that time there were only 2 Welsh clubs in the English pyramid. The expectations are of a big club. It doesn't matter what division you play. This is the day that you play. You represent the Welsh people, South Wales, and you're going out, and on the pitch you're gonna be able to put one over the rivals. Let's put it that way. Yeah. So we were in desperation. We were 1 game away from losing the professional status, and that's where the relationship, Alan Tate, Leon Britton, started in that moments of real stress, because we felt the pressure of losing the professional status would mean that maybe 30 positions would go in the club, and that built something special. Then the new ownership, they built a new stadium. It became a completely different mindset. Yeah. Now it's like the pressure to win, to achieve something. It was the pressure when we arrived, was pressure to win, not to lose something, which is the worst that you can situation that you can have in football. And that created a wonderful dressing room. I think Kenny Jackett came, as you mentioned, very professional, just to bring success, the winning culture. Beautiful stadium, Premier League stadium. Yeah. Players like Lee Trundle, that they were heroes in the eyes of the fans. And I always remember the first day you arrived. I don't know if you remember.
Let me the first I want to know yours. Go on. Go on. You say yours and I'll tell you mine.
That was brilliant. I remember when we knew about that big striker that he was coming in to give us a different, just try to fix defenders, open space for each rundle. And I think the ideas were very, very clear. And when you arrive, it was just this big man with a big heart that he was capable to go through the I think the biggest suffering session that you had in your career, probably, of the duns and the of the sand dunes. But I think I think that represented Swansea, a really strong dressing room that we accepted everybody from a Spaniard, from any type of personal situations. And then we became a team that we knew the responsibility that it was to play for Swansea City. And I think it gave us a lot individually to all of us to then carry on with our careers without a doubt.
To be fair, I always say this. I say this story. I met you guys. We was at the Sand Dunes, so it was like an army barracks. So you lot was already there. And I remember, this is how I know, because I'm a big guy. So I come out and I've got this green suitcase and you lot are all walking to me, the whole squad. So I come out not knowing what I got to do. So I've got this suitcase. So I remember the first thing Tron goes, "Rah, this guy comes on like he's from Only Fools and Horses." So I'm thinking, brother, what have I walked into? The audacity. Everybody started busting up. So I was like, oh shit, I know what I'm getting into. And then we did the sand dunes. Robbie, it hurt me to breathe. Everybody's up there and everybody's cheering. Come on, everybody's ran up. And I'm trying to get up last. I've got Pask behind me, pushing me up. I was like, oh no, what the fuck have I got into?
But you won everyone's respect. You never give up. You never give up. And for us, we saw it. We were suffering ourselves, but we were already trained for that suffering. You arrive as brand new challenge, and all of a sudden we're thinking, there's no way he's going to finish the session here. And you did, and you used everything. And I think that moment was, okay, Bayo deserves the respect from the dressing room here.
So the first season we've got there at Swansea, up until January, we're flying. And then I think exactly that, the desperation of success. I think back then we spent 300,000 in January. We brought in Rory Fallon and we brought in Leon Knight. Mm-hmm. We played Carlisle and we win it 2-1.
Yes.
And then we get to the playoff final. I remember started hearing rumours as a player that they were saying, hey, Robbie could one day manage Swansea. So as a player, I'm hearing this, but I'm only seeing you as my captain. Mm-hmm. So I remember when I first heard that, I was like, Robbie, but he's still playing. So at this time, you're still playing. But then I remember where, for the playoff final, he put you in the stands. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking, like, what's going on there? So cut long story short in that, and I'm just setting the scene for you. We get to the playoff final, we get to penalties. I miss one, Alan Tate missed one. You're not involved in the squad. So you've come down in your suit on the pitch, right? And then I remember just looking around and everybody was devastated. The fans were crying. We had our players on the floor crying. But I wasn't emotional until you came up and you hugged me and you said, B, it just wasn't our time. You wasn't playing. He had exiled you out of the squad and it impacted you to the point that it impacted me, that I teared up at that point. And there's a picture there where you're consoling me. That was the moment when I saw how much football could mean to others, but it meant to you as our captain. So what can you remember about that time? But then also about not how you was treated, but even while you was playing, was you thinking, but I want to manage Swansea? Or you understand what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah, I think obviously I need to give you my background. I was growing up with my dad being a local team coach, and we would take these discussions at home that the coach needs to make decisions, and sometimes there's no right or wrong. It's just, as a player, you shouldn't try to give a reason for every decision that happens in a football pitch or in a dressing room. You just need to be professional, try to help. It's a team sport. Sometimes you got moments that you need to think about you or the individual career, and then most of the time is about what can you do to help the team to be better than the other team. And I remember that day. For me, it was very, very difficult as well, because I knew how important it was to get into the championship. It meant everything for the club, the new stadium. I was the captain. As it happens, at that time, I wasn't involved. I move away from that. We here, the other team have players on the pitch, players on the bench, and players outside. If I can make the difference better than the opposition on the players that they are not on the pitch, that could help. For me, it was the penalty shootout is something that sometimes in football we got no answer for something why it happens, for good and for bad. And I remember that moment I felt the pain as obviously you had to take a penalty. No, everybody had to take a penalty. I would have loved to take a penalty, but I knew that that is a team effort, and whoever misses the penalty is because you took it, not for any other reason. And you need to understand that things happen for a reason, but sometimes there's no reason for it. And at that moment, I remember we had a pain, and I remember hugging you. And I don't remember anything about the game. I don't remember before the game how I felt. Nothing. I just thought about that moment. That okay, if we could treasure that feeling, that will get us in a good place for the next time that we can achieve the objective. And it was so beautiful to always in pain, sharing that pain for the right reasons. But I do think that that's a memory looking back that I really remember. Then going to a dressing room, and it was so difficult to control the emotions, and it meant something. I think you accept losing in a football game when everybody gave everything, and it meant a lot to try to win.
Okay, so Kenny Jackett, you go to Chester, I think it is. It's Chester, isn't it? So you go to Chester to play still, right?
Yeah.
So you play. So this is what threw me massive. So you go to Chester to play, and then we start the next season. And I remember, so I break my leg.
That was in October when you broke your leg?
I bought my leg beginning of the year. So I bought my leg in February. So I bought my leg in February. Then Kenny Jackett gets sacked. I think Kenny Jackett got sacked the week after I broke my leg. So it's very, very...
That would make sense, yeah.
Very, very soon after I broke my leg. And then you come in.
Yeah.
So again, of course, I'm like, wait. So for me, I was like, wait. So they was right. Like, he got to be a manager again. And I always try and put it into perspective, whereas, because, like I said, that was the first season I came in. Like I said, I was young. So when you're young, you only kind of focus on what's in front of you. You know what I'm saying? Not what goes on behind the scenes. So I was just like, this is my captain. So, and then my captain, 6 months later, becomes my manager. But by this time, I'm doing rehab. And I do want to say, I've got one footballing regret. And I've said this many times, and that was leaving Swansea. It was the only time I chased money. It was the only time. And like I said, to have the opportunity to play under you at that time. And like I said, I sat down, I came into it, and you was going through who you wanted to stay, who you didn't want to stay. And that was when you sat me down, I'm looking at you, like, B, how's the leg going? Yeah, it's cool. Listen, I want you here for next season. Your energy needs to be around. And at that time, this is what I said, I didn't take it in. I was like, yeah, cool, I want to be here. I remember chatting to Hugh Jenkins. All right, listen, this is what I want. I broke my leg playing for you. All stuff which now you're like, they still want to offer you a contract. Why you broke your leg? What's up with you? So now you're manager. The style you brought to Swansea, I keep saying it, you would have got me to the Prem. I just know this. I know this. But talk to me about that now. So you're going back in from player to manager. What is the mindset of that, especially at a club that meant so much to you? What's that mindset, and what's that shift like?
Well, I've always said I'll never ever give up my football career. And with my dad, I used to have those conversations. My dad retired at 47. And I always to say, obviously, I've got your genes, so I'm going to beat you. Because nowadays, we got better technology to help the body. So I'm going to beat you. And I remember ringing him. So Hugh Jenkins, we're talking about visionaries. I always believed in people in football that they got this vision. Hugh Jenkins had the vision of giving opportunity to young managers that they could bring something to Swansea and create a partnership. I don't think he never believed in all managers that they would come in and be one of many. He wanted somebody special in terms of fitting in and to do something different to Swansea that without the same budget could achieve on the pitch more than other clubs. Right. So at that time, you're talking about competing against Nottingham Forest, competing against Leeds to get out of League One. And I rang my dad and I said, look, I feel that I need to give up playing. I need to start coaching. I've got this opportunity, and he said to me, "Well, wow, that's strange to hear. You sound convinced." And the reason was, he said, I know what I want to do because I arrived in 95 and I've been suffering by knowing that the game can be played in a different way, because it was always this way of thinking in the lower leagues in the British game, you cannot play pretty football, or you cannot play risk football of possession football based. And I always believed that you could. You could, because the idea was you need to defend, you need to win duels. And my idea was, well, you don't have to win the duels if you don't lose the ball.
Yeah.
And it's try to defend with the ball. And it's just a concept that is very easy now to understand. But we're talking about 2007. Can we in League One defend with the ball? And obviously, the only club I could go back where the fans would give me extra time as a manager nowadays is you need to almost survive 3 defeats. When you lose 3 games, you're in question. And I always felt the Swansea fans will give me more time than probably another club that I haven't got an affinity.
Yeah.
I know the players in the dressing room, and I need them to believe that we can play this way. So all these aspects, and then the vision of Hugh Jenkins. I said to Hugh Jenkins, he said, I feel I'm not prepared to give up my playing career. And he said, and that was a moment of genius, because any other chairman would said, okay, I understand, and move on. He just said, well, become player manager. I said, wow, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
So for me, tick a box. I can still be a player. If it doesn't work next year, when I get the sack, I'll go and carry on playing. And it gives me a great safety net.
Yeah.
So I said, no, that's probably, I would need 6 weeks in any dressing room to bring my ideas into this team. With this team, in 2 sessions, we'll get it. I've got Leon Britton, that he was a right winger, but he wasn't a right winger with pace to go past people. He was that technical quality. And I'm thinking, this right winger, he needs to be our 6. He will be involved with the centre half. He'll make us play. And everything was built like that. And I remember that conversation with Leon Britton. I said, I want you to be a big part of this team, but you need to become a number 6. You're talking about a right winger that he played as a 10. And straight away, yeah, no problem. And it was a new start, but with a very clear idea of how we were going to play. So we're going to go from having 120 passes per game to reaching 900 passes per game. And that's you have to buy into it, obviously. But the way that I wanted to do it is using the quality of each individual and then make it in a very clear idea. We're going to defend with the ball. We're going to keep the ball. We're going to create numerical advantages. And that's where probably that conversation that we had, I needed players to almost, the priority was, yes, we're staying here. So I couldn't really be forceful with players to say, oh, just stay. Or it just, in your case.
I hope you did. I look at you and said, you should have said, be where you go, man. Stay your ass right here. But it's cool though.
But I do believe that with the strength that you had, absolutely you would have been in that journey of Swansea. That
man.
Obviously you got promoted, and then you had really strong style. That probably the style is stronger than any manager that he can come in, and like Leon Britton, Alan Tate, players that they came through the ranks, and you would have been absolutely, without a doubt, with your qualities in the Premier League within that right environment.
What was the hardest thing you dealt with initially as being a manager?
The hardest thing, without a doubt, I knew exactly how I wanted to play. I knew exactly how I wanted to train. I knew exactly how I wanted to get the physicality that we need to have in games through training in a methodology completely different, everything with the ball. What I was not prepared is that the day that I finished at Chester on a Friday, I finished my training as a player. I got in a car, came down just to join the squad at Swansea for the first game against Yeovil, and I would be in the stand. Then that Sunday, next day, we were training together to prepare the game on Tuesday. I was never prepared to be in the training ground and every 5 minutes having somebody knocking on the door and asking for me to make a decision to at what time we having lunch, how long is the grass, what time do you want the bus for the weekend. That was like a shock. Like, I need to anticipate this. I cannot just be having the day that I need to wait to who's going to ask me what. And that became a real, that's got nothing to do with football. That just organizing, having a plan, having a vision, and anticipating any decision that is going to be made around the team. that is not natural in the football terms. And that was the hardest aspect that I had to almost anticipate. Everything else, because everything was made with a lot of responsibility, a lot of love. Straight away, I knew the players. Where they were going to celebrate, where they were going to enjoy themselves. I could be very, very demanding, but at the same time, I could understand them. And that created a winning culture. And then make us play in a way that every player knew that it could have an effect in the way we were playing, but a completely different way that the other teams would play. But without a doubt, was the biggest shift between being a player and being a coach.
So now let's jump to Wigan. So now you've gone from the knowing of Swansea, now you go Wigan, you get to the FA Cup final against City. So they got like Tevez and Aguero. No, is it Tevez? They got Aguero. I know they got both Tevez, Aguero.
Tevez, Aguero, Silva, Gareth Barry.
Playing against 90,000. But what's your memory of, but not only just playing at that final in front of 90,000, but winning it? Like,
yeah, I think that was obviously, now looking back, we couldn't play a final. Before the game, when we were preparing the game, I felt very strongly that if we were going to play a final against Man City, we were going to lose. Because the players, they got more experience than us. As a team, as a manager, I've never been in a final. You got Roberto Mancini, that has already won the league title. So we had to somehow change the mindset to playing a game against City. And what I could use was the last time we played City. And that happened 4 weeks before. And the way it went is we played at City and we lost 1-0. And we were fantastic. And that mental barrier was exactly what we had to overcome if we wanted to win that FA Cup final. So we absolutely focused on, we're playing against City. We're replaying the game that we played a few weeks back. And when we're in those positions, we need to do this better, we need to do this better, and we need to score goals. That day we had 2 chances, 1v1 with the keeper. We missed it. They had a harder chance and they scored. And that was the difference. And all our work was in that aspect. We don't play City, we play our game, and the reference is the game that we played against them. And everything was clear, and we're going to enjoy the fact that we're going to do it in a global audience, and we're going to do it in the most iconic stadium that there is in football. And those aspects didn't make us nervous. I remember that we were always very flexible tactically. I could see before kickoff, Nasri is turning to the bench and he's saying, "Is a back 4?" And he's looking again, "No, it's a back 3." We had a few injuries, so we had a lot of names in that lineup that they could play in different positions. Right. And I could see that they were a little bit worried because they beat Chelsea in the semi-final. Obviously, if you beat Chelsea in the semi-final, you're going to the final to play Wigan. Almost, this is you to lose, right?
Who did you not beat in the semi?
Millwall.
Okay.
So we beat Everton in the quarterfinals at Goodison Park. And then it's the journey in the FA Cup. You becoming from the underdog, you're becoming to the favourite. And that's something that has helped me a lot in international football. Because that tournament football, that tournament feel that you have to adapt when you're an underdog. And when you're the favourites, you should be able to control the game in the same way. So the pressure then was on Everton's side when we played against Everton in the quarterfinals. Then we go to the semi-finals. The pressure's on us because Millwall are the underdogs. They're in the championship at that time. And then we go to the final. We become the underdogs. But we played the game. We played the game like you could just go in through every phase of the game and seeing what we were trying to do. And that was the reason why we beat Man City on the day.
So talk to me. So, you said, did you believe? So, when they chat to managers or players the night before and it goes well, and they always ask that question, did you believe in that? So did you believe that you could win that game?
Totally.
Yeah?
Totally. I was convinced because obviously we wanted to do certain aspects that we thought it would help us. We had Callum McManaman, an outstanding 1v1 player. We wanted to isolate as many options of 1v1 that we could. We had Sean Maloney getting into little pockets where we could find space. We had very specific aspects, and we wanted those actions to be the biggest amount of actions during the game. And it was the first 60 minutes we were outstanding. And then you have to use all your experience. Obviously, Wigan being in the Premier League, you have to be ready to see games out. Every aspect of the performance is a wonderful story, and I think is the FA Cup is probably one of the best examples of the FA Cup. You can follow your dream if you really believe it. The underdog story, and it was a shock because I think there will be shocks in the FA Cup, but there is always maybe the ground, maybe the pitch, maybe the conditions. Here is the most pristine pitch surface. Two teams, champion of England, against a team that our objective is 34 points every season. Is the magic of the FA Cup.
What's the difference between, so you was at a final with a player and then a final with the manager? What's that, because I ain't never gonna be a manager, so I ain't never gonna have that second feeling. So I'm asking, what's the difference where you can't affect it going on the pitch? Mm-hmm. So what's that feeling like? And then when you win, what's that feeling like?
I thought nothing's better than scoring a goal.
Yeah.
The feeling of scoring a goal is the best feeling you get in football. The second best is helping somebody to score a goal. Yeah. And I think that's what you feel as a manager. If you see that the player got help by the preparation, creating a numerical advantage, something that allows the player to enjoy the occasion, I think that's a real satisfaction. But seen always through the eyes of the players. I always believe as a manager, we are not the guys that should grab the headlines. The headlines are for the players. They are the ones that they play in the games, and they are the ones that they deserve all the credit. So you enjoy it in a different way. I must admit I was never prepared for the feeling after the final whistle. It's something that I wasn't prepared. It's such a it's difficult to describe, but it's a feeling of satisfaction, of proud moment for everyone. You feel that you represent your town, your club, and you want more. You feel after that you want more. You want to create more moments like that. But it was quite something difficult to describe what you feel. More is just a joy and a happiness that is shared for everybody, that it represents the same badge.
So you win that. So you just said it. You're on beyond cloud nine.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of days later, you get relegated. I'm gonna have to bring the real.
Totally.
So you get relegated. So how do you handle that? So how do you handle the up and then the down? Not nine, of course. You know there's a possibility. I'm just like, how do you handle that elation to then the come down?
I think it goes back to what I was saying to you before. You're trying to give a justification, the why. The FA Cup final should be the last game of the calendar season, and that campaign is the Champions League final of Wembley. That means that the FA Cup final needs to be earlier than the finishing of the season. Yeah. So you play the game and then you got 2 games after. And it was I would say a reality check. We were in the happiest moment on that Saturday after winning the FA Cup, the first trophy in the history of the first major trophy in the history of Wigan Athletic. And then 3 days later, you play away at Arsenal, knowing that you have to get a result in order to have enough points. And this is where you become experienced. We all have to go through difficult moments to appreciate the good moments. We all have to get difficult experiences to be able to affect what is going to become a good moment. So you take it as it is, understanding that this is life, this is football. And I think what happens in football is a great representation of what happened in life. When you get a great moment, you need to enjoy it. And then straight away, you go back to focusing for the next step. When you get a really low moment, you need to be autocritical. You need to understand it, what you could have done better, why did it happen, and become stronger. And the word experience, what's the word experience? Is when you're going to get in the same position, you're going to use what you've learned before to get a different outcome. And this is a lesson of life. And it was tough because at that time, we are relegated. I think it was with 34 points, which is a good points tally. We lost the game before the FA Cup final, which you could imagine. We are preparing for FA Cup final. The game in the league is a game that, as in our seasons, Wigan Athletic, I remember one season we won 7 and drawn 2 in the last 9 games, which is in the league form is top of the league. You needed every point in the league, and that FA Cup final probably affected the 3 points before, and then the game after 60 minutes, you're not going to have the same energy against an Arsenal side that has been resting for 10 days while we were playing the FA Cup final. So you see aspects, but do you celebrate the FA Cup win when you are relegated? Because we are in the training ground and nobody felt like celebrating because we've won the FA Cup on a Saturday, but then we played on Tuesday, and this is after the game at the weekend. We are relegated. And there is where I think something that happens in the British game that it doesn't happen in another league around the world. The fans were the ones demanding, no, we have to celebrate. Our name is in the famous cup, and it's going to be there forever. We got relegated, and we're going to fight to come back. And that's what it happens. And that was a real realization that this is what it matters. We are all involved in football to create moments, magic, moments of memories forever. And there will be tough moments, good moments, bad moments, but everything else is a process. And we went out. I remember Mike Pollitt, that he was in the squad. We were going from the training ground with an open bus, and there was nobody on the streets. And we're thinking, this is the worst idea. How can we celebrate after getting relegated? And Mike Pollitt said, look, nobody's going to be out. And then as we arrived into the town centre, it was incredible. It was incredible. It's thousands and thousands and thousands of people just having that joy of achieving something unique together. And as it happens in any family, you got setbacks. And when you get a setback, you get up and you just take responsibility and just you take the next step. We had an amazing time. We celebrated until now. When you go back to Wigan, somebody reminds you, I was 10 years old, I was in the parade, and there is moments that they've been stimulating to many families, and that's what you keep, understanding that any high is going to be a low around the corner, and it's part of it.
What are you like when you're away from it? Because I can't remember you ever kind of getting angry, disappointed, frustrated. I get that as being a captain, but I can't ever remember you losing your head, shouting, and I've always say this, I think there's certain people where if you've got a problem with me, it's my fault. There's certain people where you're like, right, if I've made Robbie get mad, I did something. So when you're like those elements, and you've touched on it elegantly enough to be like, look, things happen. Don't get too high when you win. Don't get too low. But what's your go-to in regards to dealing with adversity when a setback and it's just you? What do you go through?
I think you're trying to be very rational. I tried to learn that very, very early. You need to try to be autocritical and seeing the situation. And
are you an overthinker?
No.
Okay.
But I like to think. When we lose a game, I need my space to find out why. Okay. And I think that's a period. It is a rational period. It's trying to give, any moment that it was something unexpected, something that it was tough to take, just why did it happen? Is anything that we could have done better? Yeah. You got 2 reactions straight away. You can blame somebody, or you can just be autocritical and, learn from that situation. And I try to be like that. I don't believe emotions in a tough moment that could cross a line that will be very difficult then to repair. I never believed on those emotions. I never got any satisfaction from using an emotion to get rid of a bad moment. I try to be more rational, and it helped me a lot to be a coach, because during games you need to find solutions, and if you can be rational and overcome the emotions, you will be able to come up with solutions for your players. And I think if you are in that way, more autocritical from your point of view and be rational, I think is easier the next step, rather than be emotional, feel good at that moment, and then having to repair relationships and being able to almost come out stronger out of any situation. I think any situation that it happens, good or bad, in a group of people, and it's not just a sport, it's not just football. When you are together, working in business, education, you need to grow. You need to grow. There will be good moments, bad moments, those emotions, and I think if you can maintain it rational, that gives you a good way to become better.
And of course, you've gone on to Everton. These are big clubs. I just want to know, brother, what's that feeling like for you when you're like, oh shit, man, these are like top tier. What's that?
I think is living the moment. You never get out of where you are, and you see it as something that it could happen, and then you need to. I think I need to share a moment that it happened with my chairman at Wigan Athletic, Dave Whelan, and I think that changed the way I approach my career. And I'm not somebody that he says that this is the right way or the wrong way. Every manager, when you've got an opportunity, you need to value the right time. I arrived when I played 6 years for Wigan Athletic. I went away, and then Dave Whelan offers me to come back at the age of 35 to manage the team in the Premier League. And I had a conversation that day, and for me, he said, you're going to sign a 4-year deal, and if you get relegated the first season, you're going to be my manager in the Championship. If you get relegated in the Championship, you're going to be my manager in League One. He said, because it's my mistake. I believe in you. I trust what you bring in here, and I'm going to be with you for the 4 years. And at that point, I had opportunities to leave after the first year, after the second year, after the third year. And that teach me a lesson that you have to commit to your project. And then at the right time, other aspects will come. And I followed that in my career. And he was so right. In the third season, those conversations happened in the third season. And he said to me, it's not the right time. We got big things. We're going to achieve big things together. And we won the FA Cup together. And that almost allowed me to believe that whenever I'm in a job, I'm going to manage the team and the federation or the club like I'm going to be there for 50 years. And my decisions are going to be to improve the setup and try to improve the players. And if I lose the job in 2 weeks, so be it. But my way of working is that I'm going to be there for 50 years and try to respect the projects. As it happens, I went to Belgium. I was there for 7 seasons. I had opportunities to leave during that period. And then it makes sense to me. I don't think it's picking the right moment to leave. It's just you need to commit to a project. If the project is finished, you move on to the next one as it happens. But if not, I would rather to do that. At Swansea, I always felt that we grew too quickly.
Okay.
And probably the only way we had a bit of we played an FA Cup game against Fulham, and we were fantastic at home. And then we played away from home, and we were missing something. And at that time, we couldn't get it. We didn't have the finances to bring it. It's almost that we got there too quickly.
Right.
And that was a moment that I felt, okay, now probably the best for me if I need to go, because I'm getting really anxious about this process. And probably for Swansea, it's going to be the right way just to step back to be able to get the... And it worked. It worked because it was a tough period for... probably it's the only time that I left a football club where it was a bit misunderstood. But then after 2 years, everything made sense. I went back to one of my former clubs with the vision of the chairman that he brought me in the British game. Swansea City got into the Premier League, won a major trophy. So the process was right. But I think that was a story that it happened and probably tailored the way that I look at my career and my projects and what I've done after that.
So then you went over to the other side, the Everton, I think first season, 5th.
Yes.
You finished
72
5th.
points.
Come
the
on,
highest point
brother.
style in the
I was
Premier League.
hating on you, but say nothing. It's Everton. Well done. So now Everton at this time, these are, massive history, big club. And from what I get from you is you don't ever seem overawed. You go in and you acknowledge what you've got to do. That's what it is. But what's your memories of Everton?
I got introduced to Everton by probably the best person to introduce me to Everton, Bill Kenwright, the chairman at that time. It was this old-fashioned type of owner like I had with Dave Whelan at Wigan, chairmen that they loved the club. But genuinely, Bill Kenwright was blue. I'm sure that inside he had this magic way of transmitting what it meant to represent Everton, and I found that very stimulating. I wanted to know more about the history of Everton. I was only the 14th manager to manage that club. I knew what Howard Kendall did. You got all even the aspects going into the 60s, where Harry Catterick did, Will Cuff, the way that the club thought about the School of Science. And I embraced that history. I always felt that was very powerful. What probably in the past it was seen like wow, this is for the players, a high pressure to come to Everton, and people are still talking about the league titles in the 80s. I thought, no, this is powerful. This is something that other clubs don't have. And we enjoyed it, being able to share information of who was Dixie Dean, the first number 9 in the British game, aspects in the Everton history that could make us even stronger.
Okay.
And that first season, obviously, is a big change of style. The fans had to be patient and they had to understand. Once we got into the winning rhythm, we were very unfortunate to get 72 points and not get into the Champions League. 72 points wouldn't get you in the Champions League. We were very close. We beat Arsenal 3-0 at home. We felt that we were there. Then in the last few games, they overtook us. But at that point, I felt this is the moment to win silverware. You got into a crossroads. You want to bring Champions League potential players. The players only sign for a Champions League club that he plays in the Champions League. So we had to win silverware. And we were very close. When I look at, we got 2 semi-finals, the FA Cup, the League Cup as well against Man City over 2 legs. We won at home. We lost away in a very dubious game at Wembley in the semi-final. We missed a penalty. We conceded in the 92nd minute. We were marginally away from getting silverware. And I thought that was all this work was to get silverware to make the next step. So I look back with, I think we did well to embrace the history. I don't think it was a high pressure. The demands of the fans is normal, is what it makes this club to be so great. 9 league titles for Everton. They need to be there in the fans. They need to be there in the expectations. It's not easy to play as a young player in front of this hurt over years that the club that it should be winning silverware. And I understood that. But in the same way, we were brave enough to give the responsibility to young players. The first time that we give a Ross Barkley the opportunity to win games for Everton, John Stones to give him the debut in the Premier League, to have Gerard Deulofeu. We had a beautiful mixture with the experience of Distan, Jagielka, Tim Howard, Seamus Coleman, Gareth Barry. We created a wonderful mixture that almost embraced that pressure of carrying the history of the club. I only felt that we were so close to reach that goal that it was just getting silverware.
What's the difference? So as a player, like I could tell Trons was a player because I was a player with him. You know what I'm saying? You just reeled off some names like that Stones and Barkley that come in. Like who at that period at Everton tipped, but you're like, yeah, you know what? Stands out when you look back at it, those sort of players?
This is a great question because obviously there is no...
Thank you. I just want to know.
It's true. This is one of the conversations that we have in a dressing room. Let me tell you, there are 2 types of managers, and that happens in the modern game. There is the manager that they are meticulous with the system, and they need the player to fit in the system. And then you become very, very good at that system. The player knows exactly the responsibilities, the roles on and off the ball, and you become part of a winning system. Right. And then there is the other type of coach that I'm more inclined. That's what I enjoy. That is, let's bring the outstanding aspect of each player and make a balanced structure. Then you need to be very flexible tactically. You need to find different systems. There are different ways that you can use it. I enjoy that. Every player, you and me, everybody loves football. You can analyze a player and find the outstanding aspect that player has. The perfect player that has got everything, that is good off the ball, that is good on the ball, that's good in the air, that's good in set plays, doesn't exist. But there are exceptional qualities in a player. So when you see an exceptional quality, it's a question of using it in the context of a team.
Yeah.
So if I've got a player that is fantastic at 1v1 actions offensively, if I ask him to defend in a low block, he's not going to be the right player to do that.
Right.
So it's fitting in the right context. This is a little bit what I found with international football. International football is more about the individual outstanding attribute that that player has with the right attitude. We're not talking about attitude. Attitude is probably the commitment that the player has to the game, to the teammates, and to his responsibility to be part of a winning team. All the aspects that you need to do off the ball, all the aspects that you need to do when things get tough, taking risk. There are many aspects that they are part of the attitude. That would be the psychological aspect of the player. But I do enjoy when a player has an outstanding quality and he has that attitude of being accountable, of being getting through the difficult moments to help the team. You need to find a way to put him in a structure of a team. That would be probably the two types of managers that you have in using talent.
You went through a couple names at Everton when you got into your period. Who for you stood out for you where you was like, not just saying a joy to manage, because it was a joy to manage most of them, do you know what I'm saying? But for you, as the way you see football, that you was just like, yeah, that's the player.
I've got many cases. For example, I remember a little. We had a session where we had a recovery group, and there were only 4 players on the pitch, and it was 2 very experienced players. Vitinha, that he was playing for Holland, reached a World Cup final. You had Jelovic, a very experienced Croat that he played for Rangers, and he had a very good time at Everton. And we were playing with. It's a 2v2 with a very small spaces. It was a lot of quick actions. And Ross Barkley was a young player. They didn't really have a big role at Everton at that time. And we're doing a session, and he got two moments the ball turned, and he had a shot, and he missed the target completely. And none of those 2 experienced players told him off. You could see it was an incredible respect of saying, no, he can do that. He can take the gamble.
Yeah.
And that was a bit of a, wow, that's a young player that is not important in the team, and it has the respect of the 2 most senior players that we have, most experienced at international level. So I carry on following him, and everything was intuitive, was such an expression that Ross had right and left. He could turn, he's got a physicality that is not normal with the technical quality that he had. And at that moment was, wow, if he's got the respect of these players, we need to keep an eye on what he can do. And then he was with Tim Howard, goalkeeper, very experienced. Obviously, we're talking about a goalkeeper that was at Manchester United, number 1 in the United States. And when I arrived at Everton, it was a very demanding position, or big change for the role of the goalkeeper and the centre halves. We're talking about the centre halves that an average of 40 passes, 50 passes per game, they had to go to 110, and the goalkeeper should play in short and being able to make decisions. And that was enjoyable, how to see an experienced player taking ownership and responsibility and executing a completely different way of playing. And then John Stones, I don't think I've ever said that story publicly. Obviously, it was January. We're trying to find a centre half in Wigan, and I say to my chief scout, Kevin Reeves, an incredible experience to find that potential player. And I said, Kevin, we need a centre half, a ball playing centre half that he can defend big spaces, but he needs to be very good on the ball. He went around, came back, he said, I've got the player. He plays in the Championship. He plays at Barnsley, but he's playing as a wing back. He said, and you think he could be a centre, he said, without a doubt, he'll play for England one day. And those were his words. So we tried to sign John, and cutting the long story short, this is the deadline day. We're trying to reach an agreement with Barnsley. Everything is done quickly. The agents are in the training ground. It seems that it's going to happen. I go to training. When I come back, the CEO comes back. He was just, he's all white. He said, you won't believe it, John is gone. I said, what do you mean? What's happened? He said, I don't know. He said, they're gone. They disappeared. The agents, they just left. That was in transfer deadline. And then we saw the announcement. He was signing for Everton.
Yeah.
So he gets to Everton. He doesn't play a minute. Then, ruling 6 months later, I become the Everton manager. I arrive, and they give me a list. There were 4 right backs: Tony Hibbert, Seamus Coleman, Tyus Browning, and John Stones. And they said he's never played in the first team, but he's the right back that we brought from Barnsley. At that point, I knew that was the centre half that I wanted in the bus. So we said, well, I need to follow, I believe, immensely in Kevin Reeves' experience. And we start working with John Stones as a centre half. He came on 1 minute against Chelsea. We beat Chelsea at home, 1-0 at Goodison Park. And he started just to give him a little bit of a feel. And he became the player that he is today. When really, if I would have never had that past, it would have been very difficult to pick him up where he was at Everton at that time. So I could tell you many stories of that first season that everybody was used in what they could bring in an experience or a young role, but it made sense. He became a really strong dressing room, and the results were on the pizza.
That's a bad boy story, That John, that's Stone's story. Let me ask a question. Just so when your time came to an end at Everton, do you feel like you was unfairly treated?
I think you need to accept it. I think you need to accept it as a manager. For me, totally, I felt that we were very close. Probably we were one window away, as it happens in the Premier League. You have to use the windows really well. I remember one window that we managed, we had to sell Marouane Fellaini, Victor Nichibi, and we brought James McCarthy, Gareth Barry, Romelu Lukaku, and Gerard Deulofeu. It's a window that it changes completely what you can do. I think we were one window away to be able to win silverware. You got 2 semi-finals. We already finished 5th. I think you get to a point that sometimes you have to compromise a little bit to finish 6th or finish 11th. For me in the Premier League, that's not a difference. If that's going to help you to be strong in the cup competitions, we had a really good. In 2015, Everton was the last British team, English team, to stay in a European competition. That's how much has changed from that point. At that point in 2015, it was difficult for the English teams with the intensity of the Premier League to be able to have freshness to play European competitions. And then they found a way to get bigger squads, to rotate players and use the intensity in a good way. But that was a really good journey. And we were very close. But I accept as well that we hit certain standards that they needed more, and you accept it as a manager. There are many games that we lost for small details. If we would have won, I'm sure I would have had more time. But that's something that looking back, I'm very, very proud of what we achieved and the way that we achieved, because some of the football that we played in those 3 seasons was of the highest level. Being able to beat Man United home and away, it wasn't done since the Harry Kane times in the 60s. There are many aspects that they were very, very important in terms of achievement.
Now, there's like international football. So, is it similar in the sense when you're sitting down with a club, then now you're sitting down with a country? Like for me, it sounds massive, but what is that process? And then when Belgium came in, and of course, like that's Belgium at that time where we can reel off hella names. Do you know what I'm saying? And that Belgium, is it what's the difference in like international and club when you sit down?
That was the toughest period that I had, is to adjust.
Okay.
International football is completely different. The only similarity is the players that you deal with and the details in the games, because you're talking about the level of the top games. is small details that are going to give you a victory or not. Every other aspect is completely different. You win a FA Cup with a team, your rivals, they're not going to be celebrating with you. You win a title with the national team, the whole country is behind it.
Yeah.
The same way, international football has no margin of error. You lose, you're out, you don't qualify, it's a historic failure. The stakes are huge. It doesn't just affect you, affects your family, the neighbors, is an interaction, is a World Cup, a European Championships, they are followed by everybody. So the level of intensity for good and for bad is hugely different what we live in a club that we live in a national team. In terms of the day-to-day, you got 60 sessions in a pre-season to prepare a game in a club. Whatever the game is, you got 3 days to prepare a game in international football. So you have to prioritize. You cannot work at everything. You need to be very selective. You need to get moments of form of players, partnerships, relationships. You have to use the structuring of the team in a very, very different way. And that was hard for me at the beginning. I was 7 years consecutively in the Premier League, that everything is about the next game. The next game is an intensity. And then international football is almost very intense, but then you got big periods that you look back. And the way to prepare the next camp is looking back and analyzing back. And I always pass this message to any manager. If you could manage international football, it would make you a more rounded coach, because it's good to have that intensity of always looking forward and improving players to prepare the next game, but just to look back, to have the capacity makes us better, makes the methodology better. You can assess aspects, you can create partnerships quicker, and having that balance would be the ideal way of managing and coaching. So completely different. But I think the level of player as well is important. When I took the job, I was 42, 7 years consecutively in the Premier League. I never thought of international football. And then I saw the opportunity of qualifying for the World Cup. That was the reason I'm involved in football. I've got my memories of playing on the street in Spain in '78, Mario Kempes scoring in the final. We were all Holland against Argentina. Then '82 is the Spanish. You got the memories in the World Cup. It's almost a joy to be able to participate in a World Cup. And that was the idea. And I think it was at that time we had Belgian players that they were playing in the Premier League, from Toby Alderweireld, Jan Vertonghen, Vincent Kompany, Thibaut Courtois at Chelsea. You had Eden Hazard, Kevin De Bruyne, Romelu Lukaku. I managed Marouane Fellaini, Kevin Mirallas, and Romelu Lukaku at Everton. 3 very different cultures within the player. That was very curious for me. It was fascinating to see a country of 10 million people with such a diversity and such an incredible high level of player. So that played together to without a doubt take the opportunity.
So, and in any club, there's probably 3, maybe 4, even in the Prem, that's elite. Do you know what I'm saying? Like world class. You just reeled off 11. Like, so of course, having that pressure, was there a pressure like, yo, shit, these men are all elite? Was that nerve-wracking for you? Or
No, you see it.
You never get nervous, brother.
No, but that's part of the rules of the new job. I think you need to understand what are the key aspects that you need to get right. It's not an aspect of being nervous. I always found the only time I'm nervous in my job is when I feel that we haven't done everything to prepare the team.
Okay.
When you are not prepared, that's a nervous situation. Everything else is part of what is the direction of the work. I remember one of the first sessions I told my staff, I said, look, we were having a little 5-a-side. We had Mignolet, was Liverpool keeper at that time, Thibaut Courtois, Chelsea keeper at that time. We had Kevin De Bruyne, Eden Hazard, Dries Mertens, Yuri Tielemans. And I said, just enjoy the 5-a-side, because I don't think we'll ever enjoy a better 5-a-side than this. The quality that is here is incredible. And then it becomes a completely different aspect. It's not about the individual quality, which everyone has. It's who can cope with their roles in the national team. So you cannot pick the 23 best players.
Okay.
You need to pick the 23 best players to make the best team.
Right.
So when you are in the national team is because you play in every weekend, you're important at your club, and then all of a sudden maybe your role in the national team is to be ready on the bench to come on and make the difference. And not every player can do that. And I think that became really important, to be able to select which players were prepared to, almost the joint objective is to create history for Belgian football. And then at what cost? Are you prepared to sacrifice your exposure time for the good of the group? And that's probably the hardest thing. You need to identify every individual, every person behind the footballer to be able to be a part of a winning team.
So let me take you back. So you've already touched on, World Cup football, and as young players, that's the thing we think about: World Cup, the Argentinas, England, Holland, Brazil. 2018, you beat Brazil quarterfinals. They had Coutinho, Neymar, Thiago Silva. Okay, there must be that child in you at that point when you beat them in the quarterfinals to be like, oh shit, we just beat Brazil. Like, what's the memory there?
Yes, it's true that there are two experiences in a World Cup. Is one when you don't play Brazil, and one is when you play Brazil.
Okay.
Because it's completely different. First, they make you feel the press conferences, when you're preparing the game, that you are facing the Penta champions. This is the first thing that you are facing. Is that mental challenge to... Do you have the belief that you can beat the Penta champions? And you arrive into the stadium, everything is yellow, is an incredible wave of yellow around the stadium. And there is a big psychological challenge. And then it became very much about focusing on the game, how we could expose what we wanted to do and how we could use our strength. I think it was a lot about looking at their players, that we had important players in all the dressing rooms where we had Brazilians, we had important players. And for 60 minutes was an incredible performance by us. And then we had to be able to manage it very, very similar to having the right mindset to enjoy the occasion, but just being super razor sharp in the concepts that we wanted to develop. And it is a feeling that is difficult to describe. When you beat Brazil in a World Cup, it feels extra special.
So not only that, you beat England. It's because you played in England and you beat England with that. It's a little bit like, yeah. Told you.
I know, but that's... No, probably the first game, it'll be one day we can speak with Gareth Southgate about it, but it's a game that we are both qualified.
Yeah.
We both want to win, clearly, because... But if you win, you play in Brazil. And if you don't, you got another route. So it's one of those aspects that you think, well, FIFA needs to change this, because you shouldn't be in a position where losing a game, it should give you an easier journey.
Yeah.
But in a World Cup, you're thinking, this is a moment in your career as a player. You just, when you are on the pitch, you want to win, and everything matters. And then obviously the third place, that was a very significant moment, because I never ever expected to find it so difficult. International football, when you lose, you're away. You finished. You take your emotions and you're away. When you lose a semi-final in a World Cup, you've got another game to play. And that's a change of mindset, which is very difficult to do. Not many people see a purpose to play another game when you're not going to play the final. But in our case, it was important, because 86, the generation of 86, finished fourth in a World Cup, and that was the golden generation. And that was an opportunity to give this generation the status of being the best generation in Belgian football. Playing against England was a great game. We won 2-0. The bronze medal meant a lot, but it was very difficult to almost see a purpose after losing a semi-final to play the third position.
Let me just ask you on a personal note. So taking Belgium, getting the bronze medal and winning at Wigan, what's that feeling in between those achievements?
The same, Bayo. I think what you realize is that you don't work on those moments. What you work is every day. Every day needs to be a day that you go to bed and you say, yeah, I gave everything. And that's what is going to take you to the consequence of having moments like that. I feel fortunate, privileged but those moments don't happen on that day. Those moments happen the 6-7 years before that you set real standards, and every day it should be a day that it makes you better in one way or another. But you cannot separate. I think achievements in football, some of them are over a final, some of them are more consistent. For me, seeing Belgium #1 in the world for 4 years consecutively, this is an incredible achievement that nobody will keep it as a trophy won, but that means a lot of consistency, players committed.
Sorry, I don't want to cut you off because you're going to go into a point which I wanted to ask that, because you've touched on pressure. So, the 2022 Qatar World Cup, so you're ranked #1.
Yeah.
Does that add more pressure now, the world saying that you're the best?
Yeah, I think expectations. I think it brings expectations, which at the end is what you can create in the dressing room. I did feel that in Qatar we were out, we didn't qualify, and at that time it felt catastrophic. And then you put it in context, and we got 4 points, which 4 points sometimes is enough to qualify. And then the two teams that they were ahead, which is Croatia and Morocco, both reached the semi-finals of the tournament. I did feel that was something that we got punished by the lack of time of preparation. Is the World Cup that is played in the winter. We only had the week to prepare the game. I felt that the team came together on the third game in our draw against Croatia. And those aspects are important, and it teaches you that you shouldn't take for granted all the aspects that you feel that they're going to be there. Any team needs reminding of any aspect, the feeling good factor of being in the dressing room, accepting the expectations, enjoying being present in a pressure situation. At the end of the day, is our passion, and you need to feel at ease with whatever's going outside of your dressing room.
Can you tell the energy, the aura, when, like you said, it was the third game that they came together, where you're like,
yeah,
boom. Can you feel that as a manager in international football? Because I always feel that club football, I'll see you every day. So you'll know just by, if you don't hear me coming, you're like, oh, something may be up with B. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because whereas in international football, it's less personal. So could you feel coming into the first two games that, wow, man, something's just not clicking or something's just not right?
Yes. Yeah, you could. And obviously, we're talking about already we had I would say at that point, 7 seasons together. Okay. So there is it's almost probably extending a full season at club level.
Yeah.
International football, we're talking about probably 80 games at that point together. So we all felt it didn't click. Something wasn't there yet. We had a friendly against Egypt. The preparations, we all came together. There were aspects that they were not. The players, they were in the middle of their seasons. It wasn't a closure. It's the first time it happens that in the middle of your season, you're stopping everything and you go with the national team. Yeah. All that got us by surprise. And it happens to other national teams. Germany had the same feeling. Denmark had the same feeling. Other national teams had the opposite effect. Yeah. Morocco, other African teams, that they came together. It was a moment to celebrate the status in the World Cup. And for us, we won the first game. We didn't deserve to win. It was just out of individual quality. Second game, we lost. Well deserved to lose. And the third one, we deserved to win. And we drew, but the team was ready. And we clicked. Yeah. And all it's almost every culture is different. You understand that certain cultures, they just straight away, the moment they see each other, they got a way of interacting that it makes it so easy. For us in the Qatar World Cup, it wasn't like that. We needed probably more interaction time for us to be able to be ready to win at that level.
So I'm going to say, I knew you was going to go and be a manager. So as a captain, you're like, you know what, he's methodical as a player. He's able to be able to organise and take it not just for himself. And I think that's captain qualities. Players like Company, who's managing now, league titles and that, could you have seen him being like, you know what, he's going to be a manager? What was he like as a player in regards as a person as well?
Totally. I think obviously, when you speak about leaders, is an interesting word, because leader is just by authority. You got the person that he makes the decisions and is a leader. I think I consider the leader when people follow that person throughout of respect, throughout what they can transmit. Vincent Company was like that. When he was in a room, the people would listen. He would have an outlook always collective, and he was a very impressive elite brain. Without a doubt, he already was a manager when he was playing. He would think about the opposition, he would think about the strengths of his striker, the way he had to adjust, how he could affect the others, the way that he would communicate, and his brain was totally elite. I was not surprised when he became a manager.
So your time at Belgium's come to an end. At that time, was you ever thinking about the switch to go back into club football?
Yes.
Club management, club manager.
Yeah. I think it was obviously I finished in the World Cup in Belgium. Then I stayed until the end of the month. I wanted to leave everything. I was a technical director as well as a national team coach. And during that period is a period that I start thinking about the next step. And it looked that I was coming back to the Premier League. At that point, it was a couple of options. And it looked that after the period of Christmas, I would come back to club level football. At that time, 7 seasons, it seemed right. And then is when a phone call out of nowhere offers the opportunity to go to Portugal. And it's one of those things that it made so much sense, just because of the similarity of, you're talking about both countries, around 10 million population, incredible example of how to develop players. I think Portugal, without a doubt, in terms of the size of the country and the players produced, the mentality of the players, the way that they are capable of learning cultures, languages. Historically, they were navigators. They came out and they explored the world. That is still in their culture. And it was a diverse group with a lot of players in the Premier League. It made total sense. My experiences that I had at Belgium and in the Premier League, it fitted exactly into what this Portuguese side had after what happened in the World Cup as well in Qatar. And it would be a shame to, I had 80 games at that time at international level, not to carry on and go. And they told me straight away, the objective here is to win the World Cup. You got 2 years to prepare the team. Obviously, we got the Euros, we got the Nations League, but the objective is to do what has never been done, which is for the Portuguese football. 1966 is when Eusebio in the England World Cup, he finishes top goal scorer, and he finishes third in the World Cup, and that's still the best performance in a World Cup, and it made total sense. It wasn't planned to carry on international football, but at that moment, it made total sense to carry on.
Talk to me about beating Spain, because brother, Spain's you. Like you said, you've touched on it. And how did you celebrate? Just talk to me through that process, because you know your family's Spanish.
Yes.
You're the one who inflicted defeat on them. Talk to me about that.
It's funny because a lot of people say, "Oh, how can you stop yourself not singing the anthem, Spanish anthem, when it's there in a final?" I say, "Well, it's very easy. The anthem in Spain has got no lyrics, so it's nothing to sing. Maybe it would be difficult in another anthem." But no, I think it goes back to you so committed to what you're trying to do is reduce the event. You don't play the event. The event is for the people that they follow in it. In the outside, for us, is to try to get the best partnerships, to try to execute the concepts, and then use everything that you've been working for a long time to win a final. For us, it was a an incredible Nations League, because I know that he hasn't got the same credit or the same respect as a tournament like a European Championship or a World Cup. For us internally is a more demanding tournament because it's got 10 games. It's played over 5 camps, which means you need to be constantly finding solutions with moments of form, with injuries, with players that they're missing. You got a quarterfinal that is home and away, and then you got 2 games that they were played in Germany, against the hosts. And that was the first time in 25 years that Portugal beat Germany in Germany. And we went 1-0 down. All these aspects is where the real points of the resilience as a team. Then playing the final is the first time that Portugal could beat Spain in a final. It was more having the confidence to carry on doing what we did. Forget about whoever's in front of you. And I think that was a beautiful journey. In the Euros, we had 10 games in the qualifying that we won all the games, and we didn't feel ready. We went into the Euros, we played very well against France, 0-0, we lost on penalties, the ball hitting the post, going in, going out. Is the difference between progressing a tournament or not. And we made sure in the Nations League that whoever the opposition was, we were going to reach our level. And that was the satisfying aspect. You could see the process of having all of us different experiences in the journey to be able to win the 3rd major title for Portugal.
All right, so listen, you shared a picture of me, so I'm sure it got you ready for who you was going to meet next. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure it did. But look, you managed probably the most famous individual on the planet. You know, what was it like when you went into the changing room to Portugal, and then of course you've got Ronaldo there? Like, what's that conversation like outside looking in?
I made obviously when I was in Belgium, I learned when I had to do the first list, I felt that I made a mistake, that I was almost going through the list that I was going to call for the first time, and everything was players. There was no people. I never met any of those players, and I felt that was a mistake. And when I went to Portugal, I wanted to make sure that when I was going to give my first list, I already met all the players. I wanted to know the person behind the name that anybody can. So I did that. I took the job on the 9th of January. I had the games in March. From that period of January to March, I went out and I met 30 players that they were in the last squad of Portugal. And you get straight away a feeling of the commitment towards the national team. I think that's the aspect. As a person, you got your own career. As you know, the footballers, they got big demands in their clubs, their families, and straight away you see where the national team fits in their lives. And when I met Cristiano, you're talking about the player that he had 194 caps at that time, and he would have been the only footballer that he could reach 200 caps. And I was taken by the passion, by the energy of somebody that he saw the national team as something different. And that being part of that national team, it was very, very special for somebody that he won everything. And this is where, obviously, the situation of a player like Cristiano Ronaldo, this is there are not many topics that you can go into a lift and speak. You go into a lift with a stranger and you speak about the weather. You can speak about Cristiano Ronaldo. Everybody has an opinion about it. So for me, it's very basic. Is assessing the player of the qualities that he has. For us, is one of the best goal scorers in the history. The experience. There's no another player that he has the same experience, knowing what it takes to win, the behavior. And then the third one that we analyze is the attitude in that moment. Wow. And that multiplies. So for us, from the first day, it was a key player into what we wanted to build. And then he's under the same pressure, demands than any other player. Everybody speaks about what he does for the national team. He scored 25 goals in the last 30 international games. This is a player that is very, very important for us, but not because of his past. But it could be. The case is what he does now. And in the last camp, we played in November. The last player to arrive is Carlos Forbes. He was born in 2004, which is the year that he started playing for the national team. So you're talking about living examples that for us we need to use as much as we can to create what it means to play for the national team, the standards that they expected, and then create a very competitive environment. And that's what Cristiano's role has been since the first day, in a very, very natural way, somebody that he wants to be there, and he feels that that's a big part of his career.
Ronaldo's just a conversation starter. And I think my mum will know Ronaldo. You know, she don't know football. Do you have to, sometimes I have to feel like you have to protect him, talk to him differently, because of Ronaldo's the most famous person ever. He walks, he says, everybody jumps on every word. You knowing what comes with that, is there any other way that you have to deal with it? Or you're just like, he's a tsunami, so whatever comes with Ronaldo comes with Ronaldo, if you know what I'm saying?
Well, I think first and foremost, you have to treat every player individually in a separate way.
Yeah.
Everybody, there are no two people that they are the same.
Yeah, great.
Obviously, what we're talking about is you got Cristiano Ronaldo, the player, that is in the dressing room, and is somebody that he wants to prepare the best possible way, because what he's done in his career, the longevity in his career, is because he's a meticulous, he's a winner, he's a hungry individual, and you need to match that. And I think what's important is always get the expectations of every single player in the space that we are working. Then there is another phenomenon that you cannot control. That is that noise, that's something that it goes, you're talking about somebody that is more than a footballer, somebody that's probably is, I think the numbers in social media will represent that is followed well beyond football fans. You're talking about 600 million followers. That is only probably is the most famous individual in the world. That doesn't come along to what is our demands in a dressing room and his demands. And I think that's probably always, we need to get the best of our players, and you need to create the environment that he gets that. The rest, you need to recognize it as a noise, and if it doesn't affect the group internally, you need to accept it for what it is. You cannot lose time on trying to change that, because it's impossible to control.
What makes Ronaldo so special? And even with now, outside looking in, he's lost for progression and determination to keep going. But let me talking about it. But what makes him so special?
For me, without a doubt, is that the success doesn't change his commitment to the next day. We always seen, and we all are, when you win something, the next day there is less hunger.
Yeah.
Cristiano is a person, is a player that whatever happens yesterday doesn't affect what he does today. And this is I don't know if it's genetic, I don't know if he can work on it. This is the reality. He's got this incredible need to use every day to be the best that he can. That could be in terms of recovering, the training, finishing, whatever aspect that he feels he needs to. He's not going to leave anything that he cannot affect to become better. It doesn't matter if he scores a hat-trick or he doesn't score, if he missed 3 chances. His preparation as soon as the final whistle will always be methodical and perfect, preparing for the next day. That's something that is giving him that longevity without a doubt. I always said that the footballer was retiring when the body was telling the brain, look, I'm finished. With Cristiano, I've learned that it's not like that. It's the brain who tells the body, this is time to finish. He's got this capacity of wanting to be the best every day that is involved in sport. I never seen that hunger ever before at the same level.
So in the changing room, how do you see it affect, I won't even say the younger players, everybody really, you know what I'm saying? When you see somebody who has achieved so much, yet is still driven, like say he's just making his debut, how do you see the impact he has on his fellow professionals in the changing room?
You always try to gather inspiration, stimulation by people in sport, that they achieve something that nobody has achieved before. He is a very clear example on that. He's got landmarks that from playing over 225 games for a national team, No other has done it. His goal scoring records, what he's had his times in his career, 21 years of service in the national team. Those are given examples for the players that they are sharing the dressing room. And what's important is his commitment to the team. And that's what it makes it is essential to measure that, because it gets to a point that the competition for places is the same for everybody. And at the level of a national team, constantly your position is at risk. And he comes up always with that importance to the team, how it can be an example. And I think that's what you have to measure and probably appreciate for what he brings to the national team, is that freshness towards every time that he comes to the national team.
Before, I'll just move off the Ronaldo talk. I told my sons I was coming to see you. We watched you yesterday on Sky. And they said, "Oh, yeah, man, Portugal manager." So I said, "Yeah, I'm going to ask Robbie, you got to get Ronaldo to send my sons a video and say, all right, Beast Mode sons, Portugal's time to win the World Cup." I think it's that time now. I mean, it actually all coincides. Ronaldo said it's going to be his last World Cup. So if the footballing gods do what the footballing gods are going to do, you're going to go win the World Cup. I may need to get a ticket for that final. But anyway, we'll talk about that afterwards. But yeah, so where you are now with what again, like I said, last World Cup, where you lot are developing, do you feel like, yeah, you know what, it's time?
I think this is my third World Cup. I'm preparing for the third World Cup, and what I've learned, and very happy to share it with you, is that there is never a winning team before the tournament. Never. What happens is that is a team that it qualifies, and the winning team becomes the day that you get together and you go through experiences. It could be a certain game, it's a certain moment. You need to grow into becoming the best possible team. That means now is a demanding tournament, because it's the first time with 48 teams. It's going to be an extra game. It's not 7 games anymore. It's 8 games. All we can think of is to make all the preparation steps the best possible way. It starts now, is in March. How can we use March to use those friendlies in preparation? How can we get the perfect mixture? And there is just be ready to use that journey to become the best possible team. We cannot be favorites. A lot of people talk and try to compare and we've never won the World Cup before. I found that there is a psychological barrier where only the teams that they won the World Cup before, they feel that they can win it. And that's when you see Spain, you see Brazil, you see Italy, you see Germany, you feel Argentina, they come alive, England. You got this almost psychological barrier that has been broken. Another generation has won it, so why could we not win it? We haven't. So we are not favorites. We cannot be in that group. But we need to accept that this group deserves to have a go. And we're going to do that. We're not going to go there to sell the message of we're going to try and we're going to give it one game at a time. No, we go in there to try to achieve something that it's never been achieved in Portugal. We got the players that they are in the most demanding dressing rooms in club level. They are ready. Their commitment to the national team is huge. And we need the strength of our fans to create a winning team. Then the details of winning or not, probably you said it, I think it's down to the footballing gods. And we need to be prepared for that journey to be ready, because the details of winning and losing these major tournaments are minimal.
I want to touch on, and I've said this throughout the season, I mean, at Liverpool, with the loss of Diogo Jota. And I always say that I don't think we can fathom the effect that it's having. I mean, talk to me just how fans, players, staff, came together with that tragic loss. Because, I mean, you know him, you know him. It's just, how does everybody plan to kind of come together to kind of maneuver through this process?
It was such a shock, such a tragic moment away from football. Yeah. I think it brings everybody in a sense of reality that this is life. It could happen. And for us, it reinforced 2 points. One, that we need to enjoy every minute, and we don't know what's around the corner. Yeah. The second is that Diogo Jota will be with us forever. It was part of what we built in that dressing room, winning the Nations League. We had big moments that he was essential. I will always remember the quarterfinals against Denmark. The example of him, the way he trained, the belief that he always had. And he always said, I'm here for the national team and I want to win the World Cup. And we felt that we are the ones that now we got that responsibility of giving everything for the dream of Diogo. There's been key moments already. It's made us stronger. We came together with the fans in the first game, the first time that we play after Diogo's passing. We score on the 21st minute. His number was the 21st. Ruben Neves, his best friend in the national team, took over his number. He scores his first goal for the national team after 60 games in the victory against Ireland. On the 21st minute, we're in Hungary, and all the away fans, they're giving him a minute of applause. Hungary scores. We've been inundated with moments that we feel the energy of Diogo and that he is with us. But it's a reminder for all of us in life that we don't know how long we're going to be here, and it's just we need to be together, giving our best every day without thinking that we are guaranteed to be here tomorrow. And Diogo was and is part of what we built. It's not easy because everybody grieves in a different way. Some people need to smile, some people need to be sad, and I think we came to the understanding that Diogo will always be with us as an extra strength, extra purpose, and we cannot take for granted what he did for us as well.
Yeah, man. So if I ain't gonna lie, whenever I speak about that, it reinforces tomorrow wasn't promised as much as we can to try and count blessings and not problems. So yeah, man. All right, so we move on to talk about the future stars at Portugal. So you got the likes of Neves, Mendes, Vitinha. They all play in the same team. Does that make it easier when they come to like the national team?
It does when it's such a successful team.
Yeah.
I've been very very cautious. When you're in international football, you need to maintain a group. You cannot expect in every camp to get 23 new players because it's impossible to get the understanding, create a clear idea of how you're going to play. So for us in Portugal, it's been very important to keep a solid group and then always open the door to moments of form of players. And what happened with Paris Saint-Germain was fantastic. All of a sudden, Joao Neves, that he appears in Benfica, it was a big decision by Roger Smith at the moment in that at Benfica's dressing room. He gave the opportunity to two young Portuguese players, Antonio Silva and Joao Neves. When Joao Neves goes to Paris Saint-Germain, all of a sudden you got this connection between Vitinha, Joao Neves, Nuno Mendes, and then Gonçalo Ramos, becoming the most impressive team in Europe. Yeah. And we had to use that. So I remember from the initial lineup that we had in the first game against Liechtenstein in March 2023, now probably there are 6 new players including Vitinha, including Joao Neves, including Pedro Neto, that now is at Chelsea. And it's important to have that right balance of having a core of players that they almost keep the standards and they know what's needed to play in the team, and then these new fresh players, especially in a structure. Portuguese football has this constant production of new talent, and I think the national team needs to use that.
Let me ask you something, because I was always curious about when it comes to international football. So as a manager, right? So if you know a player has done well for you, so you're like, but I know the player, but he's gone through bad patch in form, and there's a player that you don't know that's he's never played for you but's gone through good form.
Yes.
Does that go back to your default setting of saying, listen, core's core, and I kind of know what they can do?
I think the straight answer would be you need to measure the player on the moment, who's in the best moment of form to execute the role that you want them to do at that moment for the team. And I think that's tough. It's tough because as a manager, you appreciate the commitment of a player that has been given a lot to the national team. All of a sudden, has a little bit of dip of form for whatever reason, contract situation, a new manager is playing a different style. and you know that that player can be very important for the national team, then you need to be very neutral and assess who's the best player for that position. It is the case that sometimes you got specific players that there is no another player that it can be like for like.
Right.
And then you carry on with a player that maybe is not playing as many minutes at the club, but you know that it's going to bring something that the team needs.
Right.
That could be the leadership aspect. That could be something very technical, very specific. So the answer is you need to get the best players in that moment for that position. But there are certain profiles that there is not as easy as a like for like. And then it's good to be a little bit more, let's say we're qualifying for the World Cup, so the camps that they are leading up to the World Cup, you keep a little bit. For example, we got a player now, Jota, is a Wolves, is not playing with the club. But being a second goalkeeper for the national team is a very tough role, because you are responsible of the level of the session.
Right.
You need to get that competitive and quality aspect in the session to help the players prepare for the game. You need to be always ready. You need to have good energy to help. For us, Jota playing now for Wolves is not essential. It could become essential once we go to March. So there are decisions that they are based on the moment of time, right, and which competition you're working on and what the player brings. A goalkeeper there could be that is playing, that is more in rhythm, but it's not going to give the effect of that player in that setup. So as a coach, as a manager, you have to make decisions for the good of the team constantly.
All right, so away from Portugal, let's move to, like I said, you know the culture of England, and I'm going to be supporting England now, especially because Nigeria didn't make the World Cup. That messed up. What would you say England's chances are?
In terms of you got a manager that has got a neutral way, that has won the Champions League, is managed at the highest level, and then you got players that I always feel that the club competitions prepare the players individually to represent the national teams. What the players that England have, they get the benefits of the competitive aspect of the Premier League and what they do in the Champions League. These clubs, the product is there, the ingredients are there. So I do feel that England is part of that favourites group. Obviously, their journey, they were out of League One in Nations League. Their journey in the last 2 years has been a little bit different to the other nations. So I don't know how that's going to affect. But the moment that the tournament arrives, the 5th of December is a big moment for that, because this is the opposite end of the Qatar World Cup, where everything was close by. You could have the camp for the full duration. Here, depending in which zone you play, you almost got 3 zones within a World Cup, where you're going to play, where you're going to move around. I think there's going to be demanding playing in altitude. If you're going to play in Mexico, the conditions around it's going to be challenging. I followed the Club World Cup last year, and within just one country, the United States, the conditions were demanding. So there are many aspects that they're gonna be very important and see who wins the World Cup. But without a doubt, England at every level has to be one of the favourites.
Who else do you think would go deep in the tournament?
Argentina, Brazil are 2 teams that they are competitive. They always find a way. Germany, for me, in Europe, they're making huge progress on the coach Hagelsmann. Obviously, Italy, they are in the playoff, but if they qualify, they will be a team that they can go all the way. They got these extremes. They won the Euros, and then they don't qualify in either of the World Cups, either side of the Euros. And you have to accept that teams like France and probably Spain, now that they are number 1 in the world ranking, they should be the favorites out of anybody, just because of the historic past, the belief that those national teams have, the players that they won every single tournament at youth level, and they just won the Euros with quite, I would say, distinctive superiority.
So what is the biggest difference? I'm talking about playing style, so not that you've got less time with them, but as a manager, what's the biggest difference that you, style-wise, or aesthetically for in international football?
I think is the obviously when a player represents a national team, the eyes are on you in a different way. In a club level, is like an introduction. You got slowly into it, what the club means, what the manager expects from me, the teammates. You create a safe environment to play your football. When you arrive to the national team, there is no safety net. This is something, is an aspiration of your career. You arrive there, the family let you know that this is important. The neighbors of the family let you know that we see your son playing for the national team. It creates a completely different. Can you perform under those circumstances? This is something new, because then when you are on the pitch, you need to be yourself. You need to have your own reasons why you are in the national team, being able to express them in try to affect the game. But I would say that mindset is the most demanding and the hardest thing for a player to adjust. Then from a coaching point of view, you need to anticipate what you're going to get in the game, because you're going to play in against teams that they're going to be they're going to give you the ball. You need to break them down. Others, they're going to play eye to eye. Every game will be completely different. The style of the game will be completely different depending on the competition that you are. If it's a league, if it's a one-off game, every aspect is different. You need to be flexible enough to identify and use it. But I would say the psychological aspect of representing your country and not being overwhelmed by that and being able to be yourself is essential.
All right, so how important is Bruno Fernandes as a midfielder? How important is he?
I think what is important when you get the national team is obviously the football aspects and the technical and the tactical aspects. How you're gonna mix the best talent of a generation or 3 generations. I think what we need is the aspects of personality, being able to read the game, making decisions in gameplay, and that's where Bruno Fernandes is very special. He reads a game, he understands the game, he can find a spot where it could change from game to game. His execution and his ideas is exceptional, his technical level. And that's where you understand what a captain he is for Manchester United. In a difficult time, the expectations, he never shies from the responsibility, is always there. And that's what's really important for us in our dressing room. You're talking about having 2 of the captains of Manchester City with Ruben Dias, Bernardo Silva. You got the captain of Manchester United, Bruno Fernandes. That personality is essential to building a dressing room that he can get the best of everyone.
Do you think he's undervalued, maybe underrated at Man United? Is it a culture thing over here because he's passionate, you know? Do you think he's up there?
Totally. Yeah, I think it's a reflection that I always see. I do feel that Bruno Fernandes is a player that he would have played in any of the winning teams of Manchester United through the history. If you go into the treble of '99, there would be a role that Bruno Fernandes could do. Because now the time is different, when there are not the results that the club or the expectation of Manchester United they get in, is always probably the player that is on the ball or the player that he didn't get that pass, that he gets probably the focus, when it should be the opposite. Is the one that he always, whatever happens, he will always show for it. He will always carry the responsibility. He will always have the stimulation to chase a winning reaction. You see when there has been real highlights, which there have been, winning the FA Cup, he is always in the key moments. Now present, and the reality is that Manchester United with Bruno Fernandes or Manchester United without Bruno Fernandes, they are completely 2 different teams. And I do think that probably doesn't get the credit that it deserves, because it's difficult to find something to attribute credit when things are not smooth.
Okay, I'm going to do some quick fire questions about Portugal, yeah?
Come on,
here we go. If Portugal don't win it, then who?
I hope nobody.
Let's go with it on that. We'll keep it. Underdogs, sleeping teams that you're like, could.
I don't think it's very, very difficult for a team that he hasn't won it before to win a World Cup, and that's the challenge that we are facing. So I cannot see a nation that he hasn't won the World Cup being a big favorite.
Top of your head, player to watch.
Lamine Yamal.
Top goal scorer.
I hope it's a Portuguese one.
Young player in the tournament.
Again, Joao Neves.
At this moment now, who do you think is the most complete player going into the World Cup?
Difficult question. Football is always a team sport. It's difficult to find an individual that is in the context of the team. I do feel that probably there is an individual that you have to stop in order not to lose a game is Lamine Yamal with what he's done at Spain.
If you could call up any past player to the Portugal team, who would it be? Could be Eusebio, could be Pepe. They're the only two I know, to be fair. They're the only two I know, but
I think you cannot call anybody that you haven't worked with.
Okay.
So I think we are blessed with talent in Portugal.
I like it.
The problem will be, who am I going to leave out?
Okay.
That's probably the question.
All right, boom. Let's talk about legacy. Yeah. When you look back at your career, what do you want people to say about Martinez's legacy?
Probably that he was clear in his ideas. There are many times that as coaches, when you lose 3 games, you try to change your ideas and you try to go through your job being a bit more pragmatic or taking less risk. I want to believe that the ideas that I had as a young coach at the age of 33 when I arrived at Swansea, the ideas are the same. Now you have to adjust to how to achieve that, how to use the players that you have. But I hope that the idea is that somebody that he was brave enough to execute his ideas. He wanted just to have the talent of the individuals to achieve a global dream, and then it's obviously the memories that they were created in that period.
I'm glad you said that. So you need to pick this though. What is your most emotional moment of your career so far?
That's a fantastic question, but I haven't, because I always feel that any emotion that we live in football is about tomorrow. It's how you gather that emotion to become better tomorrow or give a purpose to tomorrow. It could be the training, it could be the next game, it could be the next tournament. So I haven't had a moment where you feel, okay, this is emotional to the point that this is the end. I'm sure that it'll be one day that is the end of the road, and then is the moment to be emotional. At the moment, the emotions are part of the rational process.
Okay, if you could change one decision of your managerial career, what would the decision be?
None.
I knew you was going to say that.
But
I knew you was going to say it.
I learned that, Bayo, and I think that's something that I found it difficult, as I mentioned. The first thing that I had to cope is to making decisions. When you arrive in the manager's chair, all of a sudden you have to make decisions, and you're concerned about the outcome of the decision. And this is not the right way to make decisions. The decisions are not based on the outcome. The decisions are based on the information that you have, and then you make a reason for that decision. So then all the decisions are right. Some of them, they got really bad outcome. Some of them, they got very good outcome. But I don't believe on measuring the outcome, because I could make a really bad decision because there is no information. It's a gamble. I made a call and the outcome was good. That, for me, is still a bad decision. Okay. So in my career, I went through, you need to be, when you take a decision, especially making decisions on players' careers, giving opportunities to big tournaments, it needs to be huge honesty, huge responsibility, and huge amount of information. And then the decision is based on something. The outcome could be great, could be bad, could be terrible. That's part of it. But the decision was correct. So
are you an individual who you wouldn't say the means justify the ends? So if your end is to win, whatever it kind of takes, and it's not as far-fetched as we're going, but whatever it takes to win, you will do to win, or is there the manner of winning?
No, the manner of winning, but it is. I believe in the process.
Okay.
I do believe that you need to become very, very good at what you do to be able to win. I don't feel that just by any mean will give you to the victory. That's going to be one game. You're not going to win a tournament.
Right.
And the process and the way that you win is the longevity of that success.
What's your non-negotiable as a manager?
Lack of attitude. I think there are two aspects. That is the respect to the colleagues and the lack of effort. If you cannot provide those two, you cannot be part of a team. That's a non-starter.
So as a manager, have you got something that you kind of be like, okay, this always connects me to my players, even though every player is different, but you will know how to, I think you will know how to connect with me as a player and a person. So is there a one common connection that as a manager, you're like, all right, boom, this connects me to players?
Yeah, the why. When you are in front of players, you need to know why they are there. It's different in a club level. A club level could be that a player wants to be there because he wants to play in that league, because he wants to be part of that club. In a national team, could be winning a World Cup, could be just playing one game for the national team. It could be because it gives me an opportunity to sign a better contract. Whatever it is, the why connects you. And then you can be part of that process. And I think that I always feel that the players don't really care about what you know until they know that you care. And that's really true. So knowing the why a player sits in your room is the level of connection.
What's one thing you would want fans to know, to understand about management?
I think is when you're a fan of a club and you see your team play, I think it's understanding that those players really care about the club.
Right.
And sometimes nowadays now we think that is because it's become very commercial, because I think the true element is the love for football, and that exists. It really exists. It's the most powerful strength that we have in our dressing room is the love for football and that share of wanting to win the game. The fans, the players, the coaching staff, everything comes together. Then you got the complexity and the difficulty of it, but that feeling still exists. It's far from the feeling of players not trying, players don't understand in the clubs or the national teams. Far from it. I think the instinct of a player wanting to play football is still a pure feeling of loving the game and being connected to the club and the national team that you represent.
So on this podcast, we celebrate what the definition of beast mode is. That's what I want to ask you, what is your definition of beast mode on?
A little bit what you brought that day, the first time that you came to Swansea, never give up and truly believe your dreams. And I think that's, I'm a big a believer on that. Our life should be that we all need to give everything we got to achieve the best version of ourselves. Don't expect an easy ride. Never give up. And just that energy, that belief, just change everybody's life.
Yeah, man, you got it, man. We the same, man. Frequency's contagious, brother. Energy's contagious. And I knew we was going to connect from that first day at the army barracks to now. So, brother, got so much love for you.
Me too, Bayo.
All right, bless you.
Congratulations and good luck.